Welcome everyone. I'm thrilled and delighted to welcome you all to the RTS Drama Masterclass of 2020. It's a very important one today because we have an award-winning writer who is coming on today to talk to us about a real insight, give us a real insight into how TV writing works these days, but also what she's gone through to achieve what she's achieved. So in other words, we're learning all about her lessons. My name is Carolyn Reynolds. I'm an exec producer, and I've had far too many years working in TV drama. I founded Line Pictures in Liverpool after working at ITV for many years. I'm delighted to introduce Lisa Holdsworth, who has been writing professionally for several years too, not as many as mine, I don't think, I hope. Her first commission was an episode of ITV's Fat Friends, but the list, Lisa, if I may rattle through and embarrass you, the list is endless. Emmerdale, New Tricks, and lots of episodes for all of them. New Tricks, where you won the RTS Yorkshire Best Writer Award. There's Waterloo Road. There's many episodes of Midsummer Murders, but one in particular that involves cheese that I won't embarrass you too much now, but we will show a clip of it. And also lead writer on third series of A Discovery of Witches for Sky. But there's also Ackley Bridge, called The Midwife. The list is endless. You also chair the Writers Guild of Great Britain, which is a very important role as writers determine their importance in every production that goes out these days. Over the next 60 minutes, she'll share some wisdom with us all, and I'm so looking forward to it. So I'm going to rattle straight in with the first question, Lisa. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody, we have a little chat. If I look off screen suddenly, it's because I've got a little chat screen going here. And I hope everybody can hear us okay and everybody can see us okay, and that you're involved and want to ask Lisa questions. So please, I will try and answer some of your questions as we go through, okay? And I'll keep trying to remind you. I just need to remind myself to do it. Now, Lisa, how did it all begin? You take us back to those early days working with Kay Mellor.
So I finished my degree in London. I'm Leeds born and bred. In fact, that's where I am right now. This is the Garret. Welcome to it. I'd come back to Leeds and I'd worked in factual television for about 4 years. And then had met Kay Mellor's son-in-law and shoved a script I'd written under his nose. It's how so many writers' journeys begin, that they get a good contact, they do a bit of networking. Kay read it and gave me a tryout on a show called Playing the Field, which is about women footballers back in the day. I didn't get that job. It was a complete unknown quantity. I'd only ever actually written one script, so that was probably a very good decision on her part. But then about a year later, she offered me a job as her personal assistant, which was basically what I'd been doing in factual, running around, running the diary, taking phone calls, all that kind of thing, just doing it in drama. And it was the leap over to drama that I wanted. So I took the job. And whilst I was there, she'd already written the first series of Fat Friends. It had been a massive success. And they decided that they wanted a second series. And it happened really quickly. It was a phone call from David Liederman, who was the controller of ITV at the time. Yes, we want a series. Go, go, go. And then the next thing I knew, I was sat in Kay Mellor's living room and we were planning series 2. And we knew at that point that Mira Sayal, who'd been in series 1, couldn't come back. So there was a gap for a new character, a new family, in the middle of the series. I went home that weekend and wrote what I now know is a treatment, and I still hate writing them. I wrote a treatment for an episode for that new family, and popped it on Kay's desk on Monday morning, went back to running the diary and answering the phone, and by the end of that week, I'd got my first commission.
So there's quite a clear, it's quite interesting that there's a clear sort of a complete drive in those early days to be seen, to be heard, to be read, to push the boundaries and say, look at my work, which is I guess one of the main lessons to learn. Obviously, is it's almost like don't take no for an answer. Do you think that I think I'm right in saying you were once quoted as saying that you thought writers were born, not trained? Is that true?
I think so, because my degree was purely academic. I never picked up a camera. I never stood on a stage. It was a degree in film and theatre. But there was still a drive in me to write. So to procrastinate from writing my dissertation, which was about Speed, the Keanu Reeves film, that's still with me today. I wrote this script, Jackie's Wedding, and I continued working on it over the years while I was working in factual television, whilst I was looking for my opportunities. I joined writers' groups. I went in for writing competitions. I sent things to agents, and actually, before I got Fat Friends, I'd got a little bite from an agent called Georgina Ruffhead at David Hyam Associates. So this is over 20 years ago, and she'd read Jackie's Wedding, and she really liked it, and she came back to me and said, "What else have you got?" And I nearly burst into tears. I was like, "Oh, it took me ages to write this one, in amongst a full-time job, a life, running my young life as it was then." So when I got the job with Kay, I went back to Georgina, and she's still my agent today. So for people coming sort of new onto the scene, it's about getting something written, finished, polished. Never send out your first draft. Always the third, fourth, fifth draft. Sticking it under, being brave enough to stick it under people's noses. And that's, I don't say that lightly. It's really hard putting yourself out there. You really care about your baby. But knowing that you will get criticism. When I first met Kay, the first time I met her, she stood me in the corner of her son-in-law's kitchen and told me everything that was wrong with Jackie's Wedding. And I walked away thinking, oh, well, that's all over then. And she rang me back a week later and said, what I didn't say to you is, it's great, you've got a voice, which is really important, but it needs a lot of work. And that's true for the rest of my career. That the first draft is never, there's no such thing as a perfect first draft. Everything needs work. So if you are up for listening to other people's opinions on your work, taking that criticism and going back to that document and making that script better and better and better, then you are a writer. And no amount of training will give you that drive.
And of course, with that drive has come lots of shows which are fantastic. And I think we should see a clip, don't you, Lisa? I don't know if you want to. I thought Robin Hood might be quite a good one to start with. Which do you want to talk a bit about that?
So Robin Hood was one of my all-time favourite shows to work on. I'm a real lover of genre television. I show people are spotting the Thor poster in the background. I love anything that's got heroes and all those tropes in. So getting onto Robin Hood was the best. I got to write some truly ridiculous stuff, mad dialogue, and then I got to write a sword fight, which I think is what we're about to see.
You realising how difficult life can be in the forest? How long have you and your men been following me? You're jumpy. Answer me! Gisborne, I have better things to do with my day. I'm alone. Very well. Really? You're really sure you want to do this now? Why not? Well, honestly, I don't think you have the energy. I don't need food or sleep to drive me. Then what do you need? Revenge. On who? Prince John? Prince John will keep, Isabella will not. Neither will you. Gisborne?
I love that.
That's great. It's wonderful. To explain, it's something that I think a lot of writers don't think about is action scenes. How do you write them?
that particular scene, a lot of standing up in the office and acting it out, which I'm embarrassed to admit. You really have to have a visual brain. You have to imagine, not shot by shot. And an advice I'd give to new writers is don't try and direct on the page. What you're trying to do is give the idea of the scale, the excitement, the pace. And so over the years, so there's a lot of action in the show I'm working on at the moment. I've got a massive fight scene in my second episode. So it's making sure that you are seeing that picture in your head. You're seeing at what point the lines are coming in. And Robin Hood was the first time I'd had the chance to write proper action stuff, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. My first episode had a lion in it, thanks to Foz Allen, who was the producer on that show. I'd written an episode that people had liked, hadn't been very exciting. We'd had a new BBC executive producer who'd come and gone, "You've got a lot of kidnappings this series, can you take the kidnappings out?" And that kind of, my episode fell apart because of that. So I got a phone call from Foz Allen, who said, "I want to put a picture in your head, Lisa, and this will be your new episode." I'm like, okay. It's Guy of Gisborne, so the guy who's all in black in that clip. And he usually, when he was not on his uppers, he was all in black leather, and I was a big fan of that. He's got 2 chains wrapped around his hands. Okay. And at the end of those chains are 2 tigers. And don't tell me anything else, I'll go away and write it. So I wrote the first draft. Gisborne gets hold of 2 tigers, we're not entirely sure how, and he uses them to hunt down Robin and the gang. Then Foz rang me back and he said, "Oh, we film in Hungary and there are no tigers in Hungary, so we can't do the tigers. Can you do it with 2 lions?" Yep, no problem. So I wrote it with the lions stalking around Sherwood Forest, all of that carry on. Then I got a phone call from Foz. Yeah, one of the lions is dead, so you need to do it with 1 lion. Fine, yeah, did a massive rewrite. Guy of Gisborne opens a box, a giant lion runs out, roaring, they're all terrified, etc., etc. And then I get a phone call from Jane Hudson, who is now the executive producer at Emmerdale. And she rang and said, "Look, I just need to tell you how that filming day with the lion went. They'd had a day of health and safety training to have the lion on set. And it was really strict. Don't look at the lion, don't touch the lion, don't talk to the lion. We built a giant escape box, and a perspex escape box they could run into if the lion went mad." She said, then basically a plumber's van turned up, and a guy who looked like Mario out of Mario Karts opened the back of the plumber's van, and the oldest lion you've ever seen lolloped out of the back of it. So we couldn't get it to run, so that the guy, the plumber, basically pulled it by its haunches backwards so it moonwalked. We'll just run that footage forward, make it look like it's stalking forward. And we couldn't get it to roar, so we filmed it yawning, and we'll dub the roar in afterwards. So that's the magic of television for you there.
It's just music to my ears, because it's absolutely true. You can't make it up, can you, some of this stuff? And actually that is what it shows, is you have to remain totally flexible and constantly adapt to those changes, which I think is another key tip, isn't it, really? We've had a question about, given that obviously everybody's enjoying your words of encouragement, there's a question here: does Lisa have any tips about formatting pitches treatments, please? There seems to be different advice on what they should contain or how they're formatted.
Okay, so pitch is, for me, and you will get lots of different advice across. There are examples on the BBC Writers' Room website. They have now put up some examples of pitch documents and treatments, etc. So for me, a pitch is selling the sizzle, not the steak. You are selling your series, your film, whatever. You are telling us how exciting it's going to be, how we're going to cry, we're going to laugh, we're going to love the central character, or we're going to hate them. You've got the best baddies, the best action. Do not write a pitch with the producer sat on your shoulder saying, "We can't afford that," or "We can't have a lion." Write it excitingly, but don't get bogged down in the detail of the story. That's to work out later. So a pitch should be, you'll see this, you'll be excited, look at this amazing character. It shouldn't be, and then she gets on a train and she goes to London and this happens, and then. Save that. That's what your treatment is for. Your treatment is to go into those details, ready to write a script. And no great script starts without a good plan. And that's what your treatment is. So pitch is the selling document for me. Treatment is the working document where you get everything. Now, you may be asked, especially if you're a new writer, to produce various kinds of treatments as you go along. They might say, oh, can you give us a couple of pages on how the first episode will work? Can you give us character breakdowns, all the rest of it? And with my Writers Guild hats on, when they're asking for that, it's when they should be paying you some money. But the pitch is your selling document. Usually for new writers, you're writing it sometimes after you've written the script, after you've really worked on it. So you should know your characters inside out. And if you're a really great writer, in those meetings that you will inevitably have where you'll verbally pitch to a development producer or a commissioner, they will ask you lots of questions about your project. You should know that project inside out. If you prevaricate, if you sit there going, oh, I don't know, I've never really thought about it like that, then you are leaving a gap to be mauled. But if you go, I feel passionately that my character would do this, or it should be set here, or a lot of the questions will be why have you got a line in it? Not because Foz Allen rang you up and told you to put one in. It should be because I believe passionately in this. So, yeah, pictures are selling, treatments are a working document.
And what about, Lisa, what about diversity? Because obviously that's a key issue now. Well, it's always been, but it has to be. It could be gender or whatever. It's even down to the actor that you want to play. Can you put any of that in your script or document, or is that something that comes later?
For me, in the past, I have been guilty of not defining certain characteristics about my characters. Now, the reality is, and it's not done in a malign way, that people will instantly read a character as often white, able-bodied, neurotypical, all the things that we consider, but this is not the truth, the norm. So if you want your script to be diverse, and why wouldn't you? You want to speak to a multitude, to everybody, then you have to start making decisions about who your characters are early on. And that's not a burden. That is making your characters have a really great inner life. Now, obviously, make sure that you're not filling your script full of stereotypes, but making sure that when you look at your imaginary casting, it's not a sea of white faces. Even if it's a historical piece, and we're just beginning to understand this, the idea that everybody who wore a crinoline was white, that everybody who ever said forsooth was able-bodied, and that women just sat in the corner with boobs like blancmanges is ridiculous. And so doing your research, understanding why it's important that we improve the diversity on screen, it starts with the writer. And so if you don't put it on the page, it won't end up on the stage.
Okay, before we get into what went on the page for this next clip, I think we should look at the clip, which is probably one of your most famous clips, I suspect, Lisa, which is from Midsummer Murders. Let's take a look.
Who's this? What do you want? Fine. I'll see you there. Working too hard. Well, I'm here. Hello? for games. Not today.
I'm sorry to laugh, but it has become quite a stunning moment in Midsummer Murders. It's just great, the idea that anybody can come up with the idea that you die of cheese being on top of you, which is great. There's Charlotte is one of the people that's sent a little chat question to you. I think this is a good time to ask it. Is how long on average does it take to write an episode? How long are you given to do it? So, for example, you took an episode of Midsummer Murders. How long did you have to come up with that idea and do it and write it?
So on Midsummer, you sort of get the call. Let's say I get the call in January to say, would you want to write an episode of Midsummer this year? I will go down for a meeting and I'll pitch the idea. So I'll do a verbal pitch about the investigation. So on this occasion, it's set in the cheese caves of Midsummer, and all the murders are cheese related. After Paul Martin was beaten to death with the cheese, there was a death by cheese needle, death by cheese wire, and then 2 people were trampled to death by a dairy herd. I'm very proud of that. And then I will go away and write a couple of pages up of the idea. I usually pitch a couple of ideas, and they'll go, the one with the cheese. I'll go away and write 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of how it'll work, who the characters will be, where we come into the story, what the instigating incident is. They'll send back some notes. And then when I get the thumbs up on that idea, I'll go to treatment. So it'll be a good 20-page treatment for an episode of Midsummer Murders. It's a 2-hour show, 90 minutes of screen time. That takes a couple of months. Then you get the green light to go to script. That's approved by everybody who earns the big money. The first draft is you're usually given around a month to 6 weeks to write the first draft, because that's your hardest draft, because it's the blank page. And then after that, draft after draft until they're happy. That can take, on Midsummer, it takes up to 5 or 6 months. On a show like I'm on at the moment, that because of various reasons, it's been much more truncated. So going from first draft to shooting script, I think it was 3 months. But we had a lot of time beating out the story before that. On other shows, I would say on average, from the soup to the nuts, from pitch to shooting script, around 6 months. You can be on a show. It doesn't end after you're shooting. You'll still get phone calls because an actor wants to talk about changing a line, or they've got in the edit and they need some ADR, some voiceover to go over. You'll have, if you're lucky, you'll have a meeting with the director and they'll talk about how they want to film it. So usually when I sign on for a show, I expect to be linked to it for at least a year. But I never have an exclusive contract. I'm doing other stuff while I go on. I'm a freelance.
And would you go on set during that time? Would you, when they're actually shooting, the cheese episode, would you been out there to see any of the shooting or not?
It's the reality of being a freelancer. You are usually invited on set. The only set I've ever actually been on was Robin Hood, but that's because I got a free trip to Hungary and I was there for the after party as well. But the reality is, usually by the time they're filming, I'm trying to set up my next job. So I'm doing the work that doesn't get listed on IMDb, the development, doing the meetings. And so as lovely as a day on set is, and it's usually fun and the catering is usually incredible, it's actually often a day that I don't have spare. And I'm very lucky, I'm very privileged to say that, because I'm usually, like I say, getting onto my next job. There's also a reality that usually after 6 months of bashing away at a script, you never want to see it again until it's edited. And the other reality is, unless you're a producer, you are under the feet on set. So currently, in COVID, I should be in Cardiff producing a Discovery Witches. I'm not. I'm in an attic in Leeds, because there is no actual physical need for me to be on set. And in the current climate, the fewer people you have on set, the better, because obviously infection rates are kept low. So it's interesting. As a writer, I'm very rarely on set. But do you know what? It's cold and it can be really boring anyway.
Do you find it hard to come up with ideas, Lisa? Is it, I mean, just the inspiration to come up with, because you do want, as you say, you want to have something that makes your script stand out, that's entertaining for the audience. Ultimately, that's what everybody's about, isn't it? But how do you come up with ideas?
So I'm going to say something now that'll sound really contradictory, which is, yes, everybody wants to see the new thing on television, the new fresh thing, Fleabag or Cursed or something that you think you've never seen before. But also there's nothing new under the sun. And very early on in my career, a producer called Tom Sherry told me, every story has been done, you just have to find the new twist on it. And that was one of the best pieces of advice anyone ever gave me, because it takes the pressure off. In terms of coming up with ideas, there's a thing called Zeitgeist. So at the moment, I should imagine there's a lot of people pitching movies where we're in quarantine or couples are stuck together and all that kind of thing. That's the Zeitgeist thing. But also you need to have the sort of spongy brain that is taking in new stimulus at all times, I think. So I'm very interested in politics and the news. I love celebrity gossip. I love weird, quirky stuff. I watch too much television, far too much television. Plus, I'm an avid reader. And if you allow your brain to be sponge-like and absorb it, you will find that once you have the kernel of an idea, you can build on it because you're pulling on your general knowledge. Most writers are really good in pub quizzes because we have these repository brains that are full of absolute useless rubbish, but really useful for scripts. And I used to joke when I was on Newtrix that if the FBI ever looked at my search history on Google, then I was definitely going straight to Guantanamo Bay in an orange jumpsuit, because the things that I know about now, because I've researched them for shows, is extraordinary. But in terms of getting the idea, it never pops into your head as the idea. So I've got something in development now that has been kicking around my head in one form or another for about 4 years. It's been pitched to various companies, and it wasn't until we added a component with another company, which is an investigative component, that it clicked into place, and now it is a fully realized treatment. So don't sit there thinking, for God's sake, don't sit and stare at the blank page and go, oh, I'm gonna have an idea today, because that is the least creative thing you can do. It's really difficult. The advice I would usually give to writers at the moment is illegal at the moment, which is go for a walk, sit in a cafe, listen to other conversations. But, go on social media, let things drip into your brain, and something will excite you. If there's a particular genre you love, think about a new approach to it. If you are a horror fan, that is one of the most inventive genres. What's the new take on horror that no one's ever seen before? Is it for example, Get Out was a twist on a story that we'd seen before, but seen from a very unique perspective, hopefully not forever unique, because I'd like to see more from that position. All those kind of things. Just give yourself a chance to have the idea. And the advice which all of you will have heard if you've ever spoken to a writer is write them down. If you have that burst of inspiration at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't think you'll remember it in the morning, because you won't. You'll just be annoyed because you'll remember that you had a great idea, and that's all you will be able to remember. So keep notes and just allow yourself to absorb things until something pops up.
I think that there's some great tips in there, Lisa. I think we should go to our next clip. And afterwards, we'll talk about the team writing, because this is one of the shows that involved that, I think, which is a Channel 4, is it Ackley Bridge? So let's see the clip first.
Think you want some more? I don't know. He won't get food like this when he's in the home.
Won't he?
I don't know what they were cooking when I went to look round, but it smelled like bleached cabbage. And even that didn't cover up the other smell. I think some of them had been left to sit in the room. You know. Still. Get what you pay for, don't you? It was the cheapest one I could find. I mean, there's no point in wasting money on someone who doesn't even know what planet he's on, is there? Oh, and I worked out what to do with the pigeons.
Did you, love?
Taste great, don't they?
You little cow! Ah! My pigeon!
Oh, he's going to be so angry.
It's all right, Mum. I won't let him hurt you.
Ah! What have you done? You scheming little bitch.
How long did you think you could keep it up for, Dad?
Long enough.
Really? And what were you hoping to achieve from all of this?
I wanted her to realise that we're better off without you. Yeah, every birthday, every Christmas, having to look at her with her face like a slapped backside because we haven't got a card from you. Well, I'd had enough. Eh? I knew she'd call you if I gave her an excuse. Then it were only a matter of time before you'd turn her against me. I knew you'd end up getting her to stick me in a home. Now do you understand?
I do.
Yeah. So, thanks for everything. We'll be on our way. Say your goodbyes.
No.
Don't make me have to tell you again.
You'll never have to tell me anything again, Raymond. You think you've shown our Mandy up? You're the only one that's been shown up. I can see you. Finally.
You heard her. Is that the best you can do?
Lisa, can you give us the story behind that?
So Ackley Bridge, series 1 had been a massive success, and then and had been developed with a couple of producers and a couple of writers. For people who haven't seen the show, it's about a school in Calderdale that's come together, that's merged. It's half white, half Asian, like a lot of schools in West Yorkshire. So I was called down to join the writing team for the second series, and we had a series of writers' rooms, which is a phrase you hear a lot. It means lots of different things for different shows, but we did weeks of work with different groups of writers, some of who ended up writing episodes like myself, some of who were very new writers who'd had a starting a career in theatre or had done short films, who were brought in to add fresh voices, and some very experienced writers like Ayub Khan and Ishi Din were in there. It was brilliant. It was the first time I'd really properly been in a writer's room. I'd kicked ideas around and I'd been on story conference with Emmerdale, but to sit and actually plan the episodes was great. It's not like the American system. The American system is basically you give up your life for 6 months and you sit in an office with a load of writers 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and you kick around the ideas. This was more concentrated. We did it in batches, but it was a really good experience. And it was a taste of what I think is the future of writing in the UK, television writing in the UK, which is, I think there will be much more coming together of teams of writers to get those series that are long runners. It's okay if you're writing 4 episodes of something, then, you know, your Peter Bowkers, your Jed Mercurios, etc., can do all that on their own. But for long runners, which, for example, the SVODs like Netflix need, there's going to have to be more collaboration amongst writers. And next week, the Writers Guild are releasing guidelines for writers in those rooms, how to protect your rights, how to protect your working practice, because we see this as the future of television, to be honest with you.
It's quite interesting because, of course, it's been around in the States for a long time as well, hasn't it? And often you can have, a team of 12 people writing one script, which of course is alien to us over here, or has been. But I agree with you. I think it's all changing now. I mean, did you, if you think about sort of writers' rooms themselves, it's quite hard though, isn't it? To, there'll be some people that'll be much more dominant than others around that table. How do you manage that?
I think it's the responsibility of whoever's the lead writer or the lead producer to make sure that everyone gets a chance to be heard. Now, on Ackley Bridge, the guy leading the room was Alex Lamb, who's a very experienced producer. He did a fantastic job of that. He kept an eye on who, because often you do that, you're trying to get into the conversation and somebody's talking over the top of you. I also think it's the responsibility of more experienced writers to make sure you are listening to a multitude of voices, because if you like the sound of your own voice, that's fine, but go off and write an authored piece. Be a team player, and make sure you do listen and you do build on it, because you can have the most amazing mercurial moments in a writer's room where someone says one thing and another writer will just give it a little tiny twist. It can be a word, or you flip the gender of a character, or just say, well, what if that happened when? And you see the whole room sit forward because you're onto something. That's not something you get when you work on your own. But yeah, I would say to anybody looking to be a TV writer in the industry at the moment, but work on your confidence, work on hearing your voice heard. Know that particularly a writer's room is usually a safe space where there are no bad ideas. You'll get your tumbleweed moments where you pitch something and everyone goes, all right, and instantly move on. Don't dwell on it. Someone else will have their tumbleweed in a moment, and you may say the next thing you say might be absolute script writing gold. So be aware that you are throwing lots of ideas into that, and a room will hone them down until you've got the absolute cream of it. But yeah, I think anybody looking to enter the industry now, and actually your first writing experience at an entry level, because it's still really going into the soaps, you will still have lots of experiences where you will have to speak up for yourself. So the two northern soaps, Corrie and Emmerdale, I used to work on Emmerdale, have huge story conferences, 20 writers sat around a massive table, and it can be a bear pit. You have to really, learn to lean forward, lean in, particularly female writers, make sure you're doing that, and get your voice heard. Now I'm lucky, I'm gobby. I've always been able to do it, and I spoke at my first conference. But the reality is, if you are quiet for conference after conference, and I've seen this happen, it might be considered that you don't care about the show. It might be that you can't get a word in edgewise, but also making sure that your voice gets heard every session is important. So speak up. If you're at university now and you're doing seminars, make sure that you're getting that practice in.
And the scene that we saw, the scene of Ackley Bridge, can you tell us about that scene in particular? So that in terms of the story and characters.
So the idea of that is the head of the skull. We wanted a story for her because she was a great character, but we didn't know a lot about her hinterland, what had gone on in her past. So we discovered she's very put together in the show, very quite powerful woman, but we wanted to find out what had happened in the past. So we discover in her backstory that her father's abusive to her mum, and as soon as she left home, she cut ties with her family. Now, we could have done that in a speech, but you always need to develop a story where you are seeing what happens in the present to discover that past. So her mum turns up and says, your dad's got dementia. I don't know what to do. He won't go to the doctors. So she moves her mum and dad in with her, but soon it becomes clear through various things going on at the school that possibly the dad is pretending to have dementia to get at her money and her home. So to smoke him out, to make sure that she's got it right, she pretends to cook his pigeons in a pie, and pretends that they're going to put him in a home. For anybody who's not seen the episode, I won't spoil there's a massive twist at the end. It's all up on the Channel 4 player at the moment. I really loved working at Ackley Bridge. I think it's a show that's worth a look. They're filming series 4 at the moment, and it filmed 40 minutes drive from my house, which was lovely. So I did go down to the set for that show as well, because it was just a great fun show to work on. It's street cast as well, so a lot of the minor children in it, the young people in it, are from the local area, from local groups. They did lots of auditioning for that, so it feels really raw and really now. I think it's one of the shows I'm really proud I worked on.
Before we go to our last clip, Lisa, I've got some quite interesting questions that have come through. We'll try and get them all in, which is great to see. And obviously, if any more want to come through, we'll try and get those in as well. How do you meet agents that can potentially take you on as a writer? Is one of the questions.
It's one of the big questions at the moment. Now, it's really difficult at the moment. Agents, obviously, because there's not a lot of work going on, are not getting their 10%. 10% of nothing is nothing. So they're not particularly expanding their books at the moment. You have to get yourself noticed. You have to write something that they can't say no to, or you have to be a self-starter. That often helps with agents. So if, for example, your thing is comedy, are you getting stuff up on social media? Are you putting yourself out there? Are you building a profile? So when you write to an agent and they see that you are someone who is passionate about the industry, that you understand the industry, that puts you a step ahead. Now, the Writers and Artists Handbook comes out every year. At the back of that is a list of agents, and now they're all online as well, so you can go have a look. If they say they are not receiving unsolicited material at the moment, they mean it. Save the postage, save the price they're sending the email, don't bother. But some will say, we are interested in reading. My agency, David Hyam Associates, runs regular open days where they will talk to new writers, particularly writers from backgrounds that don't usually get into writing. Lots of agencies are looking for that. Some of them big agents who, looking after the real heavy hitters, are not looking to expand their books. But if you also look locally, is there an agent in your local area who's interested in taking someone on? Have a chat to them. Make sure you click with them. Don't sign with anybody who you don't trust. Have a look at their client list. See who else they're representing. Are they representing lots of people at your level of career? But do they have some people that they've moved on? Be aware that obviously that if they're looking after 20 writers who are at exactly the same level as you might be competing. Make sure you'll be a unique voice amongst their slate. But it is a numbers game. So have a really great piece ready to go, your calling card script that shows who you are, what your voice is, what you're about. Write an excellent covering email and get your stuff out there. But be prepared for the tsunami of rejections that you will get in return. And it's really hard to believe this because rejections hit you where you live. It's not about you. It's about the circumstances. And you only have to get one yes and think of every single no as a step forward, getting closer to that yes.
That's great tips there, Lisa. Thank you very much. I have another question for you. How has the ethnic landscape of screenwriters changed over the last few years? Do you see a growing number of non-white writers?
Sadly, and I'm going to be brutally honest now, no, I'm not seeing that, and it's a disgrace. Figures came out from Project Diamond, which is the industry's way of monitoring diversity. And the most shocking statistic is the number of South Asian writers in the industry at the moment is so negligible that it's not even registering on the figures, and it's pretty bad for black writers.
And do you think is that because it's not happening at producer, lead writer selection level, or is it commissioners not having the right rules around them to ensure that it happens? Where's the fault line?
I think there are two narratives that we hear at the Writers Guild, which is we can't find black writers. And I find that hard to believe. I think if you look in theatre, you look in comedy, you look who's producing their own material and putting it out there, there are some really great black and Asian writers. And when producers come to us and go, we just can't find any, I find that unbelievably defeatist and annoying, to say the least. I think there's also what we hear anecdotally from writers who are black and Asian or from minority ethnicities is that there are massive assumptions made about what they will write. This is also true for disabled writers as well, that they will only want to write about being black, being Asian, being disabled, or being gay, or the characteristic that a producer has decided defines that writer. It puts them between a rock and a hard place because commissioners don't want to commission things that are too niche. I would argue that often their opinion about what is niche is wrong, but that's a separate issue. And then they assume that a writer will not, who is black or Asian or disabled, will not be able to write something that's more populist or wide-ranging. So my argument would be that we should look at our major shows that commission over and over again, your Holbys, your Casualties, your Coronation Streets, EastEnders, etc. And if they do not have a reflective writing team that reflects British society at the moment, then it should be one of their primary aims for the next 6 months. Not 12 months, now. It needs to happen now. We need to stop talking about it and get it done. Advice I would give to new writers who are black or Asian or minority ethnicity is write what you want to write. Be proud of your voice. If you want to write about your authentic lived experience, fantastic. If you want to write a horror film, even better. If you want to write a rom-com, you write what's good for you, because I'm really hoping that we are entering a time when good writing will out. And if you need any backup and you need any support, you can come to the Writers Guild and we will help you with that. We have a diversity and equalities committee that works very hard on it. But it is changing at the rate of treacle at the moment, and it is an eternal frustration. It's also true, I would say, for women writers, although that situation I think is improving. But I'm really hoping that the discussion, the movement that we're having at the moment, because of Black Lives Matter, will start bursting through the unconscious bias that I think a lot of producers and commissioners have. And that's not me calling them out or anything like that. I've had unconscious bias I've had to deal with. And the more we can slough it off, and it's like a being wrapped in cellophane, having that prejudice that you didn't even realise that. The more you can break through it, the better the situation will get. But we as white writers, as white producers, as white commissioners, have a lot of work to do. It's not on our black and Asian colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. That's absolutely spot on. Let's go now to our last clip, All Creatures Great and Small.
I've called, but Siegfried's already left the course.
He's going mad with the pain of it. I can't let this go on.
Oh, no, just hold on.
Maybe if you'd called me sooner, this might have been avoided. But not now. You might have failed in your duty of care to that animal, but there's no way I'm going to. What's his name?
Andante.
Hold him tight. Steady, boy. It's nearly over, Andante.
Mr. Holdsworth.
Why are you still here? What do you mean? What's going on? What have you just done? What the hell have you just done? You listen to me. He had a torsion. There was nothing else I could do for him. He was in terrible pain.
Lisa, can you explain to us the scene here and about the characters? What's the story?
So that is James Herriot is in his first few weeks as a vet in the Yorkshire Dales as a newly qualified vet, and it's his first time he's had to euthanize a big animal. Poor Andante, in a morning run, ended up with a twisted bowel, which at the time wasn't something they could operate on. It meant that either they left the animal to die in enormous pain, or they put her out of her misery. However, she's owned by the local big wig. And as the series goes on, for anybody who's watched the end, we realise that James is also in love with, they're in love with the same woman, so it all kicks off a little bit. It's very sort of classic. The scene that's going on is upsetting, but the backstory is even more upsetting as you get into it.
This brings us neatly actually to the another question I've got actually, which has come through, which is how do you work with a director? How close is the relationship in each phase of the production?
So it depends on the show. So there are shows where you don't meet the director at all. You basically hand your script in and walk away. On the show I'm on at the moment, I've worked very closely with the two directors that are directing my episodes. Some directors are really hands-on and have lots of script notes, but ultimately it's my script, so I get the final say. Often they come to you with lots of practical things you have to consider. So, you know, your vision may be wonderful, but it might not be possible because of health and safety and budget. So sometimes a director will come and say, there's a way I can shoot this that means we don't have the whizzes and bangs, but I think I can get this for you. So often the discussion with the director is about compromise, which is fine. But on some shows, like I say, you never get to see the director. On some shows, you have lots of discussion with them. It depends on how early on in the show they come on. But I've worked with some, I mean, absolutely incredible directors. On Midsummer, we had some really amazing directors who have a really good grasp of the visual of the show because it has a particular look. And they'll send you emails with pictures of location for when you're next write, so you understand what it looks like. It's all been in your head and now it's becoming real. And so I've worked with some really, really lovely directors over the years. But like I say, it depends on the show.
And what are you working on now, Lisa?
So I'm on the third series of A Discovery of Witches for Sky. First series went out a couple of years ago. We had a little bit of a break because one of our actors couldn't come back immediately. It's now, I could be very pejorative and describe it as Twilight for grown-ups, but it is a little bit. It's about an ancient vampire who falls in love with a witch, and they go on a quest to find a book that will bring together all of creature kind, because there's demons as well in this world we've created. It's very sexy vampires. It's very romantic. It's got Matthew Good in it as the sexy vampire. He's incredible in it. And lots of other actors, like Trevor Reeves in it, just absolutely twirling his moustache, is incredible. Lindsay Duncan. So I liked the first series, wrote an episode of series 2, which comes out in January for Sky, and now I'm the lead writer and executive producer for the script department on series 3. So it's great. It's an adaptation of a trilogy of books. So it's an interesting show to work on. We've got to square a big circle because the writer is still with us. Unlike All Creatures Great and Small, unfortunately James Herriot is no longer with us. They can't give us script notes. But Debs Harkness, who wrote the books, is very passionate about her work, so she has lots of notes. So we have lots of discussion about magic and what sort of vampires she's created, all that kind of thing. So I'm really loving the show. It's good fun to be on.
And how was it? Was it easy for you to, if I say to change the voice to fit into someone else's show? Is that easy?
It's the biggest skill that you need as a television writer. Very few writers will only ever write their own stuff, so you will often be coming on to shows with established characters. Where I did my apprenticeship was Emmerdale. At the time I was at Emmerdale, I think we had 56 regular characters, all ages, all classes, all genders, all races. So you can't be precious about anything. You know, I once heard a writer say, I don't write women very well. Then you're not a very good writer. I read through the script out loud a lot. I do terrible impressions of the various actors. When I was on Nutrix, I did a terrible Dennis Waterman impression with an awful Cockney accent. But just to get the rhythm of the dialogue, it's something that's, again, where this is why I think some writers are born, not made. If you are interested in hearing people's voices, the quirky words they use, the turns of phrase they use, coming on to a show and picking up that voice should be a doddle for you. It's something I've always had, but it's something you can work on. And the secret is to just watch what's gone before, see how other people have done it before, listen to the actor, listen to how they phrase things, and then replicate it in your script.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes left, Lisa. I just want it. This is, I guess, down to the last part now. Really, is are there any other tips you've got for kind of breaking into the industry in a couple of minutes for me, which just sort of cut through some of that dreadful process that some of us have had to go through?
It is about networking, unfortunately. I'd love this industry to be a glorious meritocracy where all scripts are read without anybody seeing what the name is on the front of it, but that's not where we are. So, and when I say networking, I don't mean chink chink, oh hello, here's my card type stuff. That actually doesn't get you very far. It's about building your profile. So look at the BBC Writers' Room website. That's an enormously useful resource. Look at the schemes that are available. Look at the competitions that are available. Because if your name and your work is out there for long enough, then people start to recognise it. Also, learn about the industry, learn who has the power. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's not writers for the most part. And so whilst I will read scripts if they're sent to me, not at the moment, I've got a full slate, but I will, if someone says, can you have a read of this and give me feedback, I will do, but I cannot get your work commissioned because I'm too busy trying to get my work commissioned. So look for people who are working in development, people who are producers. Don't go in with a hard sell. We don't really do that in this country. The idea of the elevator pitch, if you happen to be on an elevator with Jed Mercurio, you can pitch your idea to him before he gets to the penthouse. Oh, God, that doesn't really work. It's not who we are. Be strong, but not pushy. Be passionate about your work without, I'm going to use a slight swear word here, don't be a dick. Don't be the person going, oh, God, it's her again. Oh, she's so annoying, and she'll talk about that project, which I've already told her I'm not interested. Learn to take no for an answer and move on. There's plenty of people to talk to, so move on to the next person.
Will you get to talk to those commissioners as well, or do you think it is more the producers who then go and talk to the commissioners so that you're really trying to sell the person who's going to do the selling?
Yeah, I like working with independent production companies because often they have a strong idea of their identity within that company. So, for example, Bad Wolf at the moment, who I'm making Discovery for, also make His Dark Materials. They make shows of scale. So if I had the big idea that I wanted to pitch, I'd take it to Jane at Bad Wolf. If I had something smaller and more intimate, I'd go to another, maybe a local company. So look at what their slate is, what they've produced before. Don't pitch exactly the same idea, but think about what their scale is, what they're comfortable making, and find the right production company to go to with your idea.
I think this has been a fascinating insight, Lisa, and I think it's taught us a lot about how to cut through various stages, but also who to go to, what to read. Clearly, the Writers Guild of Great Britain is also, it's there, isn't it? It's a service there that's for you. And
we have a student membership at the moment, £30. You get an e-bulletin every week with opportunities and jobs in it as well. So I'll just do that plug now.
Yeah, well, I think between RTS and Writers Guild, I think we've got it sussed. So hopefully, anyway. So the message now is sell that sizzle. And for me to say thank you, Lisa, for a fantastic insight into your world. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I'm sorry I couldn't get to every single question. It was great to see so many rolling along, and I hope I got some key ones anyway, and that it's been a help to everybody. Thank you all.